Okay. Everything seems to be working. Time to share the stream. We're going to be talking about CF stock today. I'm going to be looking into it. I don't have a lot to say yet. Okay. Let me just make sure the channel is working all right. Yep, seems to be fine. Okay, good. Now to share this out. Yeah, CF is a stock for a chemical company. From what I understand, they make ammonium. And so I'm going to see if there's an investment opportunity here. All right, but that's why I have the pun title with the chemistry. So let me get looking at it. I should go ahead and share my screen. Okay, which one do I want? I want this one. All right. So there's some interesting stuff here to consider. One is that revenue was, we'll say, pretty flat for most of the past decade. Even was declining a bit. Maybe it was coming off from a high here, but it's much higher starting in 2021. And this has translated into higher free cash flow. We actually was negative back when it was higher revenue there. And it's been consistently positive since. Oh, this isn't right. I must have the wrong columns on this. Hold on. There's no such thing as negative dividends. I need H and I. Okay. I need to fix my chart. I just updated my template, so it shows different stuff now. Or is that right? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Ooh, look how much they spent on buybacks a decade ago. They still spend more on buybacks than they do on dividends, but man. Another interesting trend here is CapEx declined sharply starting in 2016. So that's one of the big reasons why free cash flow went from being, well, I guess from the bridge from 2016 to 2017, but that's one of the big reasons why free cash flow went from being negative to positive. It didn't even require a huge leap in revenue. So that's going to be a trend worth examining. Operating cash flows did, mostly stay where they were here. I guess they were technically lower in 2016, but it'll be interesting to see why they have stayed higher after COVID, and if that's something that is likely to subside or not. Another thing is there's been a little bit of M&A activity throughout its history. So some subsidiary or unit was sold off for about almost $1.4 billion in 2014. Only a couple acquisitions have been made since. One was done in 2023, though. And if we look at what their trend is with long-term debt, we see that it's mostly declined over the decade. It did not increase in 2023 as a result of the M&A. So it seems like they were able to fund that entirely with their own cash flow, which checks out with how much free cash flow there was. So we're going to find out more about what they do. Nice. So let's try CFIR. This was originally recommended to me by a friend, and I didn't get on it because the bonus you get on Seeking Alpha wasn't yet high enough. that I could make a minimum amount of money that I'm likely to make on it. So if you wait long enough, basically the bonus will get higher. So let's look at these SEC filings. Let's look at the latest annual report, which came out earlier this year. Take a peek at what kind of business this is. So they say, our mission is to provide clean energy to feed and fuel the world sustainably. With our employees focused on safe and reliable operations, environmental stewardship, disciplined capital and corporate management, we are on a path to decarbonize our ammonia production network, the world's largest, to enable green and low carbon hydrogen and nitrogen products for energy, fertilizer, emissions abatement, and other industrial activities. Our nitrogen manufacturing complexes in the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, an extensive storage, transportation, and distribution network in North America, and logistics capabilities enabling a global reach underpin our strategy to leverage our unique capabilities to accelerate the world's transition to clean energy. Our principal customers are cooperatives, independent fertilizer distributors, traders, wholesalers, and industrial users. Our core product is anhydrous ammonia, also known as ammonia, which contains 82% nitrogen and 18% hydrogen. Our nitrogen products that are upgraded from ammonia are granular urea ammonium nitrate solution, and ammonium nitrate. Our other nitrogen products include diesel exhaust fluid, urea liquor, nitric acid, and aqua ammonia, which are sold primarily to our industrial customers. So our principal assets include 6 U.S. nitrogen manufacturing facilities located in Donaldsonville, Louisiana, the largest nitrogen complex in the world, Sergeant Bluff, Iowa, our Port Neal complex, Yazoo City, Mississippi, Claremore, Oklahoma, Woodward, Oklahoma, and Wagaman, Louisiana. The Wagaman facility is wholly owned by us, and the other 5 U.S. nitrogen facilities are wholly owned directly or indirectly by CF Industries, of which we own 89%, and CHS owns the remainder. Okay, so CHS doesn't seem like they are a separate company on the public exchanges. Okay. We have a strategic venture with CHS, in which CHS owns an equity interest in CFN, a subsidiary of CF Holdings, which represents approximately 11% of the membership interest of CFM. We own the remaining membership interest. CHS also receives deliveries pursuant to a supply agreement under which CHS has the right to purchase annually from CFM up to 1.1 million tons of granular urea and 580,000 tons of UAN at market prices. As a result of its minority equity interest in CFN, CHS is entitled to semi-annual cash distributions from CFM. We are also entitled to semi-annual cash distributions from CFN. See non-controlling interest for additional information on our strategic venture with CHS. Okay. For the years ended December 31st, 2023, 2022, 2021, we sold 19.1 million, 18.3, and 18.5 million products tons, generating net sales of $6.63 billion, 11.19 billion, and 6.54 billion, respectively. Okay. Our principal executive offices are located outside of Chicago, Illinois, and Northbrook, Illinois. Okay. So that gives an idea there. So definitely all about the ammonium. Hard to see if there's much more to it than that at the moment, but it is interesting. So it looks like, to go back to what they said, to feed and fuel the world sustainably. I can see the feed part, I guess, with the fertilizer. I'm not sure where the fuel part comes in. Maybe I just don't know a whole lot about ammonium as a chemical. So that's interesting. Yeah, how do they get to the clean energy? To capture emerging opportunities available to ammonia produced with a lower carbon intensity than that of ammonia produced through traditional processes. Okay. It looks like it has to do with ethanol production. Okay, get that now. Seem to be talking a lot about decarbonizing here, but that's not really important to the business performance. Seems to be more like it's just to make itself look good. Decarbonizing our existing network to accelerate the availability of low carbon ammonia, evaluating new low carbon ammonia capacity growth, forging partnerships to accelerate our timeline, bridge gaps in areas where we do not have expertise, and collaborating to build understanding of ammonia's clean energy capability, safety track record, and regulatory environment. The green ammonia project. Green ammonia refers to ammonia produced with hydrogen sourced through an electrolysis process that produces no carbon emissions. Okay. They're also constructing a place in Louisiana. I wonder if building these facilities was an important part of their capex. Okay. Let's look at this. They were founded in 1946 as the Central Farmers Fertilizer Company. So that's the CF, Central Farmers. They were owned by a group of regional agricultural cooperatives for the first 59 years. They became CF Industries in 1970. They were established as a fertilizer brokerage company, and then they expanded on owning and operating fertilizer manufacturing and distribution facilities in the early 1950s with a principal objective of assured supply for the owners. Okay, interesting. Okay, so in 2002, their business model shifted to establishing financial performance as the principal objective, rather than the assured supply for the owners. Okay. Then they had their IPO in 2005. Okay. I'm glad they're laying it out like this. At the time of the IPO, their assets consisted of one wholly owned nitrogen manufacturing facility in Louisiana, a joint venture nitrogen manufacturing facility in Alberta, of which they own 66%, and a phosphate and mining manufacturing operation in Florida. Okay. In 2010, they acquired Terra Industries, a leading North American producer and marketer of nitrogen and fertilizer products, for a purchase price of $4.6 billion, which was paid in cash and shares of the common stock. As a result of that, they acquired the 5 fertilizer manufacturing facilities and approximately 75% interest in the Terra Nitrogen Company. They publicly traded limited partnership and certain joint venture interests. On April 30th, 2013, they own 66% of Canadian Fertilizers Limited, a joint venture nitrogen manufacturing facility in Alberta, Canada. And they acquired all the outstanding interests in CFL that it did not already own, and it became a wholly owned subsidiary in 2014. They exited phosphate mining and manufacturing in Florida through the sale to the Mosaic Company As a result, they became focused solely on nitrogen manufacturing and distribution. Mosaic, interestingly, was recommended by the same friend that recommended this, so it's probably not a coincidence. And when I say he recommended it, I mean he asked me to look at it. I should put in a panel link. So let me do that real quick. All right. There we go. Fascinating stuff. Okay, where were we? We were about here. Okay, 2015, they acquired the remaining 50% equity interest in CF Fertilizers UK Group Limited. That was not previously owned by them, and became wholly owned. It added nitrogen manufacturing complexes in Ince, the United Kingdom, and Billingham, the United Kingdom, to their consolidated manufacturing capacity due to the substantial increase in the cost of natural gas in the United Kingdom. It closed the facility in 2023, ceased operations of the ammonia plant in the Billingham facility, which was idled on September 2022. Since that time, we've imported ammonia for upgrade into AM and other nitrogen products at the Billingham facility. Interesting. In 2016, their strategic venture with CHS commenced, at which time CHS made a capital contribution of $2.8 billion to CFN in exchange for membership interest in CNN, which represented approximately 11% of the total membership interest. In late 2015 and 16, they completed capacity expansion projects at the Donaldsonville complex in Louisiana and the Port Neal complex in Iowa. These projects, originally announced in 2012, included the construction of ammonia, urea, UAN plants at the Donaldson complex and new ammonia and urea plants at the Port Neal complex. These plants increased overall production capacity by approximately 25% and improved product mix flexibility. Okay. Okay. All right, so basically it's the history, I guess. In 2023, they acquired an ammonia production facility in Wagaman, Louisiana from Dyno Nobel Louisiana Ammonia, a U.S. subsidiary of Australia-based Insidic Pivot Limited. Okay. The facility has a nameplate capacity of 880,000 tons of ammonia annually. Okay. They funded the purchase with $1.2 billion of cash on hand. So yeah. Well, now I have an idea of how this all went. Unless otherwise stated, we measure our production and sales volume in this annual report on Form 10-K in product tons, which represents the weight of the product measured in short tons. One short ton is equal to 2,000 pounds. References to UAN product tons assumed a 32% nitrogen content basis for production volume. We also provide certain supplementary volume information in nutrient tons. Nutrient tons represent the weight of the product's nitrogen content, which varies by product. Ammonia represents 82% nitrogen content, granular urea 46, UAN between 28 and 32. Nitrogen content AN represents between 29 and 35% nitrogen content. The portable segments are ammonia, granular urea, UAN, AN, and other. These segments are differentiated by products. We use gross margin to evaluate segment performance and allocate resources. Total other operating costs and expenses, consisting primarily of selling, general administrative expenses, and other operating net and non-operating expenses, are essentially managed and are not included in the measurement of segment profitability viewed by management. Okay, so take a look here. In terms of volume, UAN is the heaviest, but it is still not quite as much net sales, so maybe the price for that isn't as high per ton. Looks like who seems to be selling more for whatever their general I guess ammonia, yeah, because it's about half of this, but about 3/4 of the sales. So that's at least in terms of revenues. Doesn't say anything about the margins. Let me go back here. Okay. This shows how much they produce. Looks like the Donaldsonville one is the biggest producer. This is the production volume of the last 3 years. Yeah, so the Donaldson facility is the world's largest and most flexible nitrogen complex. It has 6 ammonia plants, 5 urea plants, 4 nitric acid plants, 3 UAN plants, and 1 DEF plant. Oh wow, okay. It's a big industrial complex right there by the sounds of it. Probably one of those ones that looks intimidating from the outside. Let me see if I can search a picture of it. Okay, it's on there. Okay. Wow, it's out in the middle of nowhere, it looks like. Far away from like a town or whatever. And they irrigate the Mississippi for some sort of purpose. This isn't going to be very important to my investment thesis, but it is interesting to observe. Okay. Nitrogen product raw materials. Natural gas is the principal raw material and primary fuel source used in ammonia production process at our nitrogen manufacturing facilities. Okay, that's important to know. That's why they had to shut down that plant in the UK. Because when natural gas prices went up when the war in Russia started, European countries like the UK became too expensive. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. They use daily spot and term purchases from a variety of quality suppliers to maintain a reliable, competitively priced supply of natural gas. I even use some hedges. Okay. storage facilities, and other properties. Where are the peoples? Are they not awake yet? Customers are cooperatives. So those are the farmers' cooperatives and independent fertilizer distributors, traders, wholesalers, industrial users. CHS is the largest customer for 13% of consolidated net sales. Okay. Markets are global and intensely competitive, based primarily on delivered price and to a lesser extent on reliability, customer service, and product quality. During the peak demand cycles, product availability and delivery time also play a role in buying decisions of customers. Okay. Primary competitors are Nutrien Limited, Koch Fertilizer, and Yara International. It's also significant competition from products sourced from other regions of the world, including some with lower natural gas or other feedstock costs, which may include the benefit of government subsidies. Because ammonia, urea, and UAN are widely created fertilizer products, there are limited barriers to entry. We experience competition from foreign source products continuously. Producers of nitrogen-based fertilizers located in the Middle East, Trinidad, Africa, and Russia have been major exporters to North America in recent years. Good to know. Let's take a look at Nutrien real quick. I've heard of them. They're Canadian. They're a public company. Okay. What are their finances like? Let's see. Oh wow, they're a big business. Big old business. They are a bigger business by revenue than CF Industries. CF Industries is the largest ammonia producer. What does Nutrien make? They make fertilizer. It's the largest producer of potash. Okay, so they do a bit more. Ammonium is just part of what they do. That makes sense. I like that they actually mention who they're. So what if I say ammonia market share? Let's take a look at that. Well, that's actually showing the chemical. Let's try anhydrous ammonia market share. Maybe I just need to type the company name. CF Industries market share. All right. What market is this? Okay. Market share relative to its competitors. All right. What is this market? What is this pop-up thing? What's an ad? Okay. Okay, I can't really make sense of that page. So CF Industries, ammonia market share. Yara is a Norwegian company. Okay. This one's also a chemical manufacturing company in Europe. CI Global seems to be in a lot of places. So let's see. Yeah, there's a high demand for products such as fertilizers because the world's population is constantly growing. Oh, what is this? Being some sort of weird chat bot. That was strange. Okay, so it seems like natural gas and the other raw materials used to make ammonia are going to be a big part of the cyclicality here. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break and refill my coffee. Okay, I'm back. Okay, seasonality. Business is seasonal, largely due to weather conditions in the agricultural industry and other factors. Largest demand is during the spring planting season, with the second period of strong demand following the fall harvest. Okay. So anything to support agriculture, and then for food, and then I can imagine that the rising to support the ethanol industry would also be a boon to CF. Oh man, fire truck. Okay. Let me see if there's anything interesting on their investors relations page in terms of like a presentation or something like that. Investors. All right. So where I already was. Okay. Latest presentation. Okay. And I guess I should look at what their year-to-date results are. This came out in August, so we're probably a few weeks away from their Q3 report. Let's take a look here. Sales are down. Okay. Look at the balance sheet. Balance sheet is not a lot of intangible assets. Most of it is property and equipment, and then investment is small. Okay, there's a decent amount of goodwill actually from the acquisition they just did. Okay. The long-term debt isn't very high. That is good. I'm sleepy. Okay, operating cash flows are down. And I wonder, does the operating cash flows take a look at net earnings? Income attributed to non-controlling interest. So when they correct for the cash flows, they look at net earnings, which is the 744 figure. Okay. Looking here at, probably need to take into account the impact from the non-controlling interest, but this was, I'll look at 3 months ended. Okay, so yeah, the non-controlling interest is the earnings they get. How many of these earnings are based on non-cash items? Let's see, sales, cash, expense, interest income. Net income attributable to common stockholders. So might need to correct free cash flow for what the non-controlling interest gets. I'll have to go back and do that. I haven't really had to do that before, but it's just how it is. Might be able to look at the free cash flow per share over the Insignia, but let me see if it would have that. So let's see, would it have free cash flow per share? Not taking into account the non-controlling interest. So if we look at 2023, because the free cash flow. Yeah, let me look at that real quick. So 2023, normal free cash flow would be 2.258 billion. Oh yeah, let's see. Let's do the math here. So equals F11 divided by J11. Oh, I hit the wrong key. I hit the Q twice instead of the 1. And is that right? Is that... Let me look at... That's in millions. Is that the right number of shares outstanding? Well, it says how many are issued. It doesn't say the amount outstanding. That's interesting. I'm guessing it's that 180 figure? The 188? Wait, how would that be? How would that be? Oh, it's issued here. Interesting. Okay. I'm looking at the Q4 thing. Okay. So that makes sense then. Okay. So 188.2, and this is in millions. So if I do the math there, then the free cash flow per share should be basically $12. Oh, I still have Nutrien up. Okay. It's less. Is that because they take out the non-controlling interest? Does Seeking Alpha do that? Let's find out if they do. So I can take out the non-controlling interest. Let me go back to this. We find the cash flow statement. Actually, it would be in the income statement. Non-controlling interest, it would be $313 that we want to take out. So if I take out $313 here, so let's add a column. Let's do. I'm going to call this common free cash flow. Just because it's what the common shareholders get, not for the consolidated entity. And I'm going to do a column here. And it's going to be non-controlling interest. and actually swap the columns. It probably makes more sense if I do that. Okay, so no. Okay, so it'd be 313 that goes to the non-controlling interest. 313. And then I want basically F11 minus equals F11 minus L11. Okay, so that gets me a smaller figure, and then if I just swapped that for M11, I get 1033. So I'm not sure what Seeking Alpha was counting for their free cash flow per share. But it is interesting. We probably should take out the non-controlling interest since, as they put it, that results in cash distributions to the ownership stake in the subsidiary, and some of their cash comes from what the subsidiary distributes to CF. I think I should probably use that, and it'll require me to go back and find it for like every year. You can at least get it for the last 3. And when did this deal happen? It was not every year that this happened. Go back to the company history. Okay, that started in 2016. Okay. So I only really need to go back to 2016 to capture what that is. In any event, it's still most of the decade. $591, $343. Okay. And I might as well just complete the formula here. Okay. And if I want to look back further, need to go even farther. Oh, we have folks in the stream, it looks like, watching. If you have any questions about stocks, let me know, or if you want to catch up with what I'm doing currently, let me know. If you just showed up and haven't been here the whole time, I can imagine that it could be a bit perplexing, but this is an ammonia production company called CF Industries. A friend of mine asked me to look at it some time ago, and I'm finally getting around to it. But you're not limited to discussions about this company. Please ask me anything else related to the stocks and investing while we're here. I'm just basically doing a work session while I wait. And don't forget to like the stream either. Subscribe if you haven't already. I've been told I need to remember to ask people to do that. Okay, so back to looking up the other 10Ks for previous years. So I want to go to 2021, I think. Yes. And let's just cut to the financial statements and supplementary data. Might leave this one open for a bit. Non-controlling interest. Okay, 115, 153, and 138. All right, I got that right. Okay, great. All right, so I have this And I need to get the 2016. So I want to move down to the 2018. Yep, okay. Oh, interesting. Wait, how far does this go? Okay, so I need to get these 2 years. Okay. Interesting that it's a positive contribution for this year. Oh wow, they're giving even more to non-controlling. Oh wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong one. I was looking at the wrong one. Okay, 92, 119, and 34. Okay. I might as well look at 2014 just so I can have a whole data. I mean, a whole decade of data. But I will not keep this tab up long. Oh man, non-controlling. All right, let me just find out where it is. Okay, man, they had a lot of that in here. Okay, 46.5. Okay, so oh, a buddy just messaged me asking why CLF is up. Let's take a quick look at CLF. Holy, I'm so glad I didn't sell calls on them. I'm not happy that I sold a call on them last week. But what can you do? I was good to wait for this one. I did not completely screw that up. I probably want to substitute this row for what I just created. So edit chart. I'm going to change the data range to include M and change it to that. Okay. So this also gives me an average, or this does. I should get an average of the M row, since that will include over the past decade. The average was like that. Let's get the last 5 years as well. So just I can sort of see how the average changed. So I want M7. Right, not surprisingly, it is much higher. This is probably a better indicator of the minimum free cash flow capacity that shareholders will get. And then, so if I want to go off of, that was average per share. So if I look at the number of shares right now, that actually would not be based on 2023. That would be based on current year or the year-to-date results. So let's see. The 180.4. They bought back maybe probably about 5% of their shares. And so far, it's not bad. Okay, so 180.4. So we'll just do equal P14 divided by 180.4. Okay, so Free cash flow per share is about $9.45 on average based on that. I think I still want to understand why CapEx did what it did here. So for that, I would want to read the 2017 10K. I've got, which ones do I have? I have the 2017 10K, so let's look at that one. Management's discussion of financial conditions. And if you're still watching, please let me know if you have any questions about what it is I'm doing. Like, why am I looking at the 10K? Why is my mind going where it is? Why do I see something and then think, oh, I need to look at this? Please, if you have questions about how any of this works, ask me. There'd be no point in streaming and showing this to folks if it was to leave you guys clueless. Oh, I think I scrolled past it. Let's go back. Yeah. Okay, management discussion. 4 assets at the time. Actually, one thing I am curious about. Let me skip past this a moment. So let me. Okay, so here's how they open their 2023 Form 10K. So their latest annual SEC filing. Our mission is to provide clean energy to feed and fuel the world sustainably. With our employees focused on safe and reliable operations, environmental stewardship, and disciplined capital and corporate management, we are on a path to decarbonize our ammonia production network. All right. That's how they start this. In 2017, we are one of the largest manufacturers and distributors of nitrogen fertilizer products. Notice that it's basically, so they get to that here, like basically here. And so basically this is saying like the same stuff. They just slapped on this whole, oh, look at us, we're one of the good guys thing. That's not going to be important for my Seeking Alpha article, but it's just something I've noticed if I go back and read older 10Ks. There's less grandstanding, less of this, oh, look at me, in the qualitative details, the self-descriptions. I mean, I think it's silly. I don't know how many people who read 10Ks are looking for this. Like, if we think about the people who are actually reading 10Ks, I don't know who's going to give you a bad grade. Oh, you get a B- on this 10K because you didn't tell us how you're saving the earth in a for-profit company. Nothing from chat. I'm getting a little spicy here. No input, no comments. Riveting. It's riveting that you guys don't find it riveting. Or maybe you do and you just don't have anything to say. I don't know. Anyway, back to the real question. Why did CapEx decline? That's what I really need to figure out, because that can tell me what might make it snap back up. Yep. Table of contents to management's discussion. And let's see. Historically, global fertilizer measured by parallel population growth, changing data habits, plant acreage. If these key periods have a major mix of long-term fertilizer demand. There's more emphasis on how ammonia can be used for energy supplies, I guess, as they emphasize their, you might say, the ethanol end use of their ammonia, and not just general fertilizer. It could be that they are trying to make a case to political figures. So 2023 10K is coming out under the Biden administration, whereas 2017 is coming out right as Trump is taking office. Well, no, at the end, it would be the end of his. If it's for the year 2017, it'd be the end of his first year, basically. Yeah. Sometimes companies would do stuff like that. Okay. The U.S. Gulf is a major fertilizer pricing point due to the volume of nitrogen fertilizer that trades there. Interesting. Imagine the hurricanes could complicate stuff there a bit. Our capacity expansion projects were completed in the fourth quarter of 2016. Capacity expansion projects expanded 2016 and 2015. Okay. So that's what it was. They were expanding their capacity, and they finished. So the real question is, if capacity increases, cash flow is better now. It seems like, why did revenue increase? I need to think about how this cycle works. Why did revenue shoot up? If we're looking here, they didn't have, doesn't look like they've been increasing capacity much, because most of their spending for it was here. That's why they were cash flow negative. They haven't really had to accelerate how much they expanded. It's just been maybe a little bit. So, So are they just happy to price higher? Is that what this is? If I look at 2022's, I'll probably go ahead and delete this. And this is the 2023's. So let me go to. Interesting day out. Sun's out now. Seriously, who's watching but not commenting? Let me know what questions you have. Yeah, I'm trying to see if my sound is working. I mean, last time people were pretty talkative. Oh yeah, I was looking at pricing. So for this, I will also want to go to management discussion and analysis of the financial condition. Interesting. So the selling prices for all major products were higher in 2022 than in 2021, driven by the impact of tighter global nitrogen supply and demand balance as a result of strong global demand and a decrease in global supply availability, as higher global energy costs continue to drive lower global operating rates and exacerbated by the geopolitical environment described above. I assume they're talking about the war in Russia and Ukraine. So, the increase in commodity grain prices in turn supported strong demand for nitrogen fertilizer. Interesting. So if energy costs go up, smaller, maybe lower margin ammonia operators might be forced to slow down operations, which would reduce supply, giving CF better pricing power. Additionally, if something were to drive food prices up, that could also support an increase in ammonia prices for CF, because then it's more advantageous. And they're more likely to profit off ammonia at a higher price, the farmers are. Very interesting. And the war in Ukraine and Russia had both of those going on at once. That explains it. They didn't need to increase capacity, they just needed to price better. And it's one of the largest nitrogen producers in the world, with the largest individual site in the world. You're in a perfect position to take care of that. So it really just becomes a question of where we are in whatever we might consider a cycle, however unpredictable that cycle might be. All right, so capacity is built up here. It finishes, and then I guess as the cash flow starts to increase, this happens. But what really picked up the price was all this. Ooh, that's loud. I hope you guys don't hear that. Okay. Okay, interesting. This is a neat company. I think I basically get it now. I wish I were more of a scientist, because some of these industrial or technological things could be more useful for me. But yeah, I need to stop going to this. I don't think you guys want to keep seeing that infinite portal. Okay. So I have a basic idea here. Go ahead and get my structure out. They're grinding coffee loudly. Okay. So even though they talk a lot about clean energy and environmental sustainability, it doesn't look to me like their essential business is that different from where they were when they didn't talk about that in their 10K. I wonder if they're afraid that regulators will come after them. On that note, it might be a good idea to see what happens with the presidential election, because I could see this business being heavily impacted by a Trump victory and RFK Jr. being put in charge of one of the food and drug regulatory agencies. It's interesting to think about. That's not a reason not to write about it today, but it is a reason not to rush into any judgments on it. Okay, so if I were to write, let me take a look at this slideshow as well. See, built for the long term. Okay, that's good to know. Most of their facilities are in the southern half of the country. Why are they headquartered in Illinois? They got stuff in like Louisiana and Oklahoma. Wouldn't they be headquartered closer to that? Why Chicago? Triple B investment grade rating? Really? They made an acquisition with their own cash. And that is an important thing to consider here is, if I go back to this, so yeah, the CapEx declined, but CapEx is, any additions to your own property, plant, and equipment. You make an acquisition for $1.2 billion, that's acquiring somebody else's property, plant, and equipment. It really should be considered a form of CapEx. That's why I have an adjusted free cash flow column here that shows what this would be. Although it's not super common that they do acquisitions. As we can see, there's only been 2, and they even sold off one asset. So this basically balances it out here. I don't know if there's an average that can be assumed. So I'm not going to do that for like long-term assumptions about this company. But, this is 1.2 billion. So that's about almost 3 years worth of CapEx done through some M&A. So it could happen. Might be a reason for maybe something of a lower free cash flow per share. But, we could, at least just to play around with our thought process a bit, go ahead and attempt a valuation of CF Industries based on this. So let's just say it's going to be a bit lower than the 5-year average. Let's say 915. Maybe they just continue to spend some on M&A. Let's assume they just do something normal like 3% growth, and the terminal multiple might be fine of around 10. What's good then for the company? Well, that suggests about 112 per share. So if we go back here, it's actually not a bad price when you think about it. I might end up writing a buy article about this myself. So that's pretty cool. How did I come upon CF again? Were they near the top of the undercovered list? I think that was it. Go here again. Yep. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah, so there's a lot here. How many are undercovered that they will pay a fixed amount up front? Some have never been covered. But a lot of these are also kind of weird funds and not proper stocks. Lionsgate Studios? That's the movie. Yeah, I think we've seen them before. Interesting. They have never been covered on Seeking Alpha? If they were willing to pay me more on Seeking Alpha, I think I would do that. I did an article on Request yesterday, and I don't think I'm making very much money on it. Let me look. Yeah, this is like a pittance. 47. I should at least be at about 60 or 65 right now. I'm not particularly happy with this one. I'll need to say next time, hey, throw another $20 on there. 45 ain't enough. But that's on me to negotiate. Okay. let me see what else is going on with markets and such. So it looks like they're going to be closing much higher lately. Very disappointed with NYCBI. Time that covered call poorly. Let me look at IVR. We've got some call options on them open. This is a bit perplexing. Now let's take a look at Arbor Realty Trust. I might need to get back into them pretty soon. Because you can get an 11% yield. And now that the rates have been cut, let's take a look at the 10-year note. That's going to be important for mortgage refinancing. Okay, it's shooting back up to about 4%. So that's probably slowing down refinancings, but Arbor needed it to get below 4, and they had from about August until just a couple weeks ago, they had 2 solid months of rates being below 4%. Probably quite a few of their borrowers were looking to refinance at that point. So that's good for them. And it seems to be stopping at 4%, whereas before, like on the way up, it seems to be stopping. Before, it seemed like it couldn't quite penetrate 4% for long. Like, look here. It's like right here. Yeah, this is the first time it really broke 4% hard in a while. It did do it a bit here, but this was before a lot of the loans they had were maturing. I know I'm just talking about Arbor out of nowhere, but that's what was going on. Let's take a look here. What does it look like when it's live on here? Let me take a look. Interesting. And if I click here, it'll take me right to it. Interesting. So let's say I have more viewers if I have my own stream up. Is that how that works? Okay, it does say I have a viewer now. Maybe one of those viewers was me. Maybe I accidentally was talking to myself. Who knows? Well, I wanted to see if people would be asking questions. I guess I'll stick on until around noon. Oh yeah, I was looking at this presentation. Margin enhancing products, low carbon ammonia product growth. This is really important, I don't think. This is just placating senators. Share repurchases and quarterly dividends. Probably need to do more dividends, but share repurchases might not be bad at this price. Inorganic growth opportunities. So these are the evaluations. Okay. That might justify a lower free cash flow per share estimate. The reason I use a 5-year average is I feel like you basically get a snapshot of a cycle here, right? You get lower levels, you get a peak, you get these middle free cash flow levels, and then you get this. So yeah, maybe 915 isn't a bad 3%. It's probably fair considering how they can probably reduce OPEX and generally increase prices, at least keep up with inflation and slight improvements in their operating model over time. That's what I'm thinking. Or actual growth of volume as population grows. So what's the multiple right now on CF? So let's see. If we go to the market cap, it's 15 billion on a free cash flow of about 1.9 billion. So it's less than 10. Actually, buybacks at this price are probably pretty good. There aren't very many buybacks under a multiple of 10 that would be bad, unless it's a shrinking company, in which case it would probably need to be a lot lower, maybe like 5 or less before the buybacks are accretive. You can buy back faster than you shrink. There is my cord. Here it is. Just plugging my laptop so it doesn't die. Whoa, it's all tangled up here. Hold on. Okay. Oof. Okay, anything from chat? Any people showing up? No. I need to troll people for attention. That's what I need to do. Who is actually online? That's the question. Let me take a look here. Who's actually online that I know? Whom do I know that is online? I don't know a lot of these people. Looking through some Discord community I have. I'll message some of my friends. Okay, messaging them. So let's see what people do and say. So I guess if I have my tab up of my stream, that will show as a viewer for my StreamYard. So I just got to subtract 1 whenever I'm doing this. Okay. Actually, no, I'm going to put this. I'm like picky about how I position my tabs. Okay, so I think I figured that out. This is 2023. This is Which year is this? Is this 2022? Yes. Okay. Don't need that up anymore. Look at that, a nice timeline. And this is one of the most helpful companies in understanding it. Yeah. Oh. I got a message from a friend. People not doing anything this morning? I don't see as many people around as I feel like I normally would. I did say I would continue till about noon, so I will proceed. Well, this at least explains the manufacturing process a bit. The Haber-Bosch process. So they take nitrogen and hydrogen. Then with the power of natural gas, they make ammonia. And then with ammonia, they make all this shit. Okay. So they have their choice of things they can make with it. And ammonia is their biggest seller, because apparently it can be used for lots of things. So if they don't make something specific with it, they could just sell it to somebody else who then figures out what they want to do with it. Makes sense. Why invest in CF Industries? Yeah, why would I do that? Tell me. Advanced Production and Distribution Network. Okay. There's an ammonia pipeline? I didn't know that they had such a thing. It's interesting to know. New Star. Interesting name. It's New Star Company to look up. New Star. Not on Seeking Alpha. Owner is Sonoco LP. It is a limited partnership. Oh, it's Sun. Okay. Interesting. Oh, I guess they have a lot of facilities across North America. So maybe Chicago is kind of a middle spot for the headquarters. Key agriculture regions. So this is, I guess, where they expect their customers to be primarily in these states and these Canadian provinces. Okay. Access to low-cost, plentiful natural gas provides comparative margin opportunities. Oh wow! Look at this! Look at this! Yeah, the war in Russia. But that is the thing, isn't it? So I'm guessing supply chain disruptions caused by the COVID pandemic led to higher prices on ammonia because it just started to increase raw material costs briefly. And then as those started to subside, Russia invades Ukraine, disrupts both natural gas and the supply of grains and other crops, so that prices for crops overall increases. Okay. But what happens if the war ends and more natural gas starts going into Europe from Russia? It gets cheaper for European companies. They have to set higher prices in order to run profitably. And that means how high a price CF needs to set to be competitive would be higher. It's possible that an improvement in the natural gas supply for Europe would make them less competitive, because this looks like a pretty substantial difference here. Maybe I'll just put that in my risks. I don't think that's a reason not to invest, because I think you have to assume that even if the war ends soon, that trading relations would resume. It's possible the sanctions will remain, especially if Russia continues to hold Ukraine's territory. Very possible the international community, particularly the pro-West part of Europe, would not think very highly of them just stealing land and keeping it. I don't like to speculate too much on these things and make them necessary to an investment thesis, because most of their business here is still done in the U.S. We could still look at what things were like beforehand, though. So, I mean, if we just get an idea. Oh, I don't think that is. It's easier to read. So they could do maybe $4.5 billion in revenues before. Probably make at least just under $1 billion. That would make their current multiple about 15. It's not a terribly high multiple for the lowercase scenario. It'd be nice if it were 8 billion, I suppose, instead of 15 billion, because then you basically get a multiple of 10 for the lower end of cash flows. But I mean, they also made an acquisition, so their capacity is up. They might be able to do higher prices. They might be permanently capturing market share from their weakened European competitors, so it's never a guarantee that they'll have that issue. So yeah, I guess we just got to figure that out. I see some more folks are in viewing right now. So welcome if you've just showed up. If you have any questions about any stocks or anything related to investing, they do not have to be about what I'm looking at currently. This is just sort of a work session I'm doing. I'm looking at this ammonia producer. So yeah, welcome if you just showed up and you're kind of in the middle of things and you don't really know what's going on. Let's see, positive global nitrogen supply demand dynamics. I expect China exports and India imports to decline. Brazil imports to increase. Europe remains the global marginal producer. Russia Black Sea ammonia exports resuming. Annual volumes expected to remain below pre-war levels. Okay. Trinidad and Egypt gas shortages, curtailments, global nitrogen demand growth of 1.5% per year for traditional applications. Announced capacity additions limited. So demand is going to grow 1.5%. That's at least half of the 3% growth assumption here. And then you just have to assume they can grow an average of 1.5%, an additional 1.5%, just by making the business incrementally better. I don't think this is a wild growth assumption. This actually seems like a decently undervalued stock. If cyclical, that's the thing. If cyclical, I don't know if 84 is the best price we'll ever get, but I mean, it's not like in the past year it's been much lower. Like 70 isn't a huge bargain compared to this. I mean, it'd be what, about 20% maybe? Let's see. It's maybe about 18 or 19%, but it's not like if we go back farther, it's not like getting it in like the 30s and 40 range, right? Which has been a while. Even last year when it was really low, it's been pretty flat for the most part over the last couple of years. So, and this is where it got after peak in demand. So it's probably in a middle range right now. So I think it's a middle range in the cycle, but I think long term, it's probably priced pretty well to go up more. Long-term demand outpaces expected capacity additions. That's good. Near-term global nitrogen market remains constructive. Okay, now they achieve superior capacity utilization through leading safety culture and world-class scale. Fostering a do-it-right culture. What's the safety thing here? That the fertilizer stuffs could blow up? Is that what this is? Accidentally make a bomb by stockpiling chemical? Like that, what happened at that plant in China a few years ago? Let's see, industry-leading operational excellence drives cash generation. Cash from operations, 1.4 billion return to shareholders. I wonder if they provide their own estimate of free cash flow if they factor in the non-controlling interests out of the consolidated results. Oh, actually, if the UK plant's been decommissioned, the Waggaman acquisition probably offsets that a bit. Hopefully they sell that asset pretty well. Nitrogen participation per share. Nitrogen participation per share. That's a funny metric. I guess how much an individual share represents, the production or manufacturing of these nitrogen-based chemicals. Funny metric. So if you're watching and you haven't liked or subscribed yet, please do. And type some questions or comments in chat. Okay. No new shares outstanding. Interesting. So I guess this explains the nitrogen participation. They're intending to repurchase the remaining 1.9 billion authorization of share repurchases by 2025. They've increased production capacity 36%, decreased share count 50%. And they're at least doing it with a multiple of about 10 based on the current cash flows. It isn't bad. I'm going to look at their debt. That's like one of the things I haven't looked at yet. Interest on borrowings. It doesn't show the rate. Imagine there's not a whole lot of difference in their different nitrogen or ammonia products, just because I imagine they follow similar supply-demand curves. I don't think I need to overthink this in terms of which of their specific products or segments might have different growth rates or something. I think it just gives them a little bit more flexibility so they can get maybe marginally better prices for the same inventory depending on where they focus things. That's probably it. Where is the debt table? I need to go farther down. Maybe I do. Oh, here we go. All right. And how much debt do they have again? Let me look. Oh, the ASF is here. And if organic farming keeps growing, which it is in Ireland, I'd say that stock might go down in the future. All right. Good to see you. Tell me why you think organic farming would hurt this. Is it because they would not use these nitrogen-based fertilizers? I don't imagine that it will go down, since demand for the fertilizer seems to be growing globally. And at that point, it's a commodity price. Even if demand in the US declined, if it increases more in the rest of the world, then that would increase the commodity price here in the US for those who want it. And then CF could just export it. They could export whatever doesn't get sold here. So that's the thing. Assuming they ran out of customers in the US, which it doesn't sound like they sell internationally much. Except maybe to Canada. But that's more NAFTA trading. So yeah, please tell me what you think about organic farming, why that would impact the stock. I am going to step away briefly to refill my coffee. So just type out your response and I will read it when I get back. Okay. All right, I am back. Thanks for your patience. Okay, there, I'm back on now. All right, so WASF, you're still there? I was responding to this, and then the Wi-Fi went out, and I had to reset it. Good old Caribou Coffee. So you were saying, does the private sector in America have a lot of? Is that debt, not depth? Like, I assume that's not short for department. You're talking about debt in the private sector? I mean, somewhat. There were a lot of loans and mortgages issued in 2021 that are still outstanding, and some of which are defaulting right now, which is why people have been worried that there might be another regional bank crisis. So people were trying to see, how long rates would remain higher in 2024. Debt? Are you messing with me? It's debt, DEBT. Irish spellings don't count here, okay? I don't care if the Celtic B is written like a P because they think it's cute over there. All right, it's debt with a B, and the B is silent. I think the French did that to us. Still, it's better spelling than if you actually tried to write it in Irish, because then you would use letters that make absolutely no sense. You'd use the letter T for an F sound and things like that. I don't think I can ever read something in Irish and have a good grasp on how I'm supposed to pronounce it. Like, when I learned that the singer Enya, that Enya is not actually spelled like it is on her CDs, because on the CDs it's like that. And then that's just, I think, to make it easier for maybe British and American listeners, but it's actually this. Who spells Enya like that as the normal way? Those Irish. Yeah, the Irish are interesting. They were the one group that was pretty much always free during the Roman era, but then right after that stopped being free because the Vikings and then the English kept taking them over, and only recently became free again. How do you feel about that? Anyway, while you're thinking about that, let's also talk about this. Organic farming requires no artificial fertilizers, and that is true. But there's a reason I think the artificial fertilizers are used, is because they eliminate certain other costs. And so if food's going to be more expensive because it's organic, how well is that going to go? Like, look at right now, people are complaining about food prices in the US, right? That's probably going to be a deciding election issue. If Kamala ends up losing, for example, a big part of that will probably be because of food prices. People want to be able to afford their groceries. And so if it's easier to mass produce food and therefore lower the prices, then I think fertilizers or artificial fertilizers are going to be used more. We might talk about whether or not that's a good thing long term, but short term, people need to eat, right? You can't survive for the long term if you don't first survive the short term. Right? We're all like technically 2 weeks away or so from like starving to death or whatever. So, every time we don't eat, that clock restarts. By the way, this is the correct spelling of Enya if you're a Celt, not if you're an Anglophone. So WASF, please share your further thoughts about this. I know you're an environmentalist, so I'm sure you'd like to see more organic. That's why. Okay. And by the way, he explained to me before that the WASF means we are so fact, and fact as in this. Typing it, fact. So not like a truthful, verifiable statement, but that, which is how they say it in Ireland, I think. In fact, the vowel here, when they say it in Ireland, probably varies depending on what part of the country, and also how much alcohol is in them at that moment. Although WASF also mentioned that alcohol consumption seems to be declining in Ireland. They've been closing down pubs. Let me ask you this. If they're going to be having less pubs in Ireland, can they maybe redirect that alcohol consumption toward ethanol? Isn't that basically how that works? The same general chemical? I guess the alcohol is formed through the fermentation of the beverage, though, not from corn. Maybe it doesn't quite work like that. At least not for all of them. Hopefully alcohol just goes away on its own. I was actually talking with a friend I made, actually at the same coffee shop a couple weeks ago, and talking about when we might meet up again. She had remarked that it can be difficult to find things that are fun to do because she doesn't like to drink, and I don't either. I've never had alcohol, and I mentioned how if you don't drink, people will often be resistant to it, and they'll ask stupid questions like, "Oh, why don't you drink?" As if they have never heard anything bad about alcohol. And I don't go around telling people they shouldn't drink. So it's odd to me when people try to goad me into doing it just so they don't feel on the spot for it. But yeah, interestingly, WASF, there is a company that's transitioning to more organic production. This is Cal-Maine. This is the biggest egg producer, so chicken eggs in the U.S. And they have been shipping more from like the traditional consumer egg that is essentially factory produced. Chickens in cages, fed artificially grown corn and stuff, and then there's free range chickens, that eat more natural grain and probably get to eat a lot of bugs too and things like that. They run, peck an ant, I guess, or something, right? Eat stuff like that. And those organic eggs, those are usually the smaller ones, and I think they tend to be browner. Are becoming an increasing part of their volume. It's starting to replace the traditional eggs. So that might be interesting to you. I would not think about buying them right now. I did cover them not too long ago, but if you ask me, the eggs being cyclical, they're on the high end of the cycle. I thought they were on the high end of the cycle when I wrote about them around here. This is just obscene. They say they're growing, but I doubt it. I wrote hold. I don't write sells anymore, so hold is as negative as I get. But yeah, my article might actually have some of the visuals that show it. This actually shows you egg consumption per capita in the US since 2000, and it has slightly grown. It shrunk a bit because of the avian flu and COVID. So people weren't going out to get omelets as much, for example. But the trend has been one of growth. There's some slight cyclicality here. So there's this avian flu here, I remember, and there was this other avian flu. So those seem to be part of what influences the cycle. Actually, the avian flu helps them. So if you look at the impact to operating results, their revenue shot up in 2023 because of the avian flu. And then look what that did to their cash flows, right? Yeah, where's if you talk look at producers. Cal-Maine is one of the biggest. They've been shifting toward cage-free focus. So they call them specialty eggs. They don't call them organic, but they call them specialty. But they're like organically fed and free range or cage-free, whatever. There's so many words for these things, man. Anyway, what are you saying about that? You can't see the graphic. Let me go back to it. This one. You don't see this one very well. Oh, am I not? Hold on. I forgot to share screen again. That's what happened. I did not turn the screen share back on when I restarted the stream. Yeah, that's my bad. Okay. Okay, you see this now, right? Okay, great. So, yeah. So you see here, this is Cal-Maine's revenue. So their ticker symbol spells CALM, Calm. So if you ever see Calm stock, that's Cal-Maine, the egg producer. And so yeah, if you look at revenues, they can kind of go up and down a bit. Shot up in 2023. This is because the avian flu reduced the egg supply, so egg prices shot up. So they make more money with less eggs. This is how it affected their cash flow, because this is just revenue, and this is the net cash they generate after expenses, basically. So as you can see, because this is based on, this will shift more because it's the margin. So almost a double in revenue can be like, significant multiple higher free cash flow. We also see that, some years it's negative. It's kind of a cyclical thing here in terms of how the prices and its operating costs ebb and flow and squeeze its margins. And you see here, this is per capita egg consumption since 2000. So you can see it's a general trend of increases. It has some bumps in it. So, like I mentioned, there was an avian flu here. There's also the Great Recession. So it's possible people are just spending less on eggs and maybe buying a lot cheaper stuff. Maybe people buying more oatmeal. And this happens. So yeah. And then I think there's the other avian flu. So this egg consumption declines a bit. So there's just some cyclicality to it, but the trend is one of growth. And again, here they're focusing on cage-free things and feeding the flocks organic feed, but they're one of the largest producers. And they call it their specialty eggs as opposed to the traditional eggs. Yeah, if you look at the price of it, though, it has shot up in the last year. I covered it around here. It's up quite a bit, but I thought it was kind of highly priced because it's kind of cyclical. You don't want to buy it on the high end of the cycle. You want to buy it on the low end of the cycle and then maybe cash out. So easy double if you got it here. If you go back 1 year in time, let's see, that's about a year. Yeah, you've doubled your money. And it was a little bit higher, so I thought, kind of on the high end now. This is a huge shoot up, so I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, that's the only company I can think of that's shifting toward more of an organic business model. And I think that's mainly because I think egg consumption, when you think about people who buy eggs, I think that's one of the only, we'll say, consumer markets where the consumer really truly does want the more organic option. And a lot of other food markets, that's not the case. So you can't imagine that for all of food consumption, because some people are just going to want what is cheap and affordable. And, artificial fertilizers and stuff, other methods that go outside of what we consider organic, make that stuff cheaper. Bigger and cheaper, even. So yeah, let's go back here, take a look at this. Increasing nitrogen participation per share, funny metric. Total shareholder return. I guess that is better than their peers, but I don't really see how comparing to peers is the thing to do here. You want to compare your investment to the market, so not S&P 500 materials, just the S&P 500. So if you compare CF to the S&P 500, for example, let's do metrics, performance, do total return, so that we count reinvested dividends. And we go last 10 years. You see the S&P 500 is a bit better. That's 197% total return versus 116. So this isn't bad. I mean, it's still positive, but this is like, what would a total return be in terms of a CAGR? Oh, let's see, that's almost double, right? That's be from, it'll be like from 100 to 216. I could probably figure it out. So if over 10 years went from 100 to 216, okay, it would be about an 8% CAGR. So that's not bad, really. It's an 8% return. It's better than most bonds, and 8% is kind of the low end. So it's just a matter of if you think the current price on CF, like, people also think we're in a market bubble because of all the tech stocks. So if this crashes, will the S&P 500 crash harder than CF because CF wasn't priced crazily? There was a brief period where it was beating the S&P 500, you see, in 2022. So all it needs is a good year, and S&P 500 is kind of looking at market bubble territory as well. So maybe it is a better time to buy this instead of the S&P 500. But S&P 500 in 2014 still beat a lot of things over the last decade. Okay. Any other questions, WASF? What should I call you? I know you had the Sean Kelly name before. If you told me what I'm supposed to call you, I don't remember. I should remember if you have told me. By the way, I don't think I talked about this with you, but over the weekend I had coffee with a friend. An interesting, I'd say he's a leftist dude. Not what you would normally think of as a leftist. So he's not like a Marxist or anything, but definitely not the centrist or whatever. And he and I both expect Donald Trump's going to win. I don't know how you feel about that. He seems to be more in tune with what the emotional side of politics and how that influences what voters pick. You're right, they do need cheap gas. So there was a slide on this, might have been right before you hopped in. So if we look here, they were comparing their production costs as a consequence of natural gas to European. So this is North American. This is European. So it's a big advantage per metric ton. Or, yeah. Yeah, Henry Hub, North American natural gas. So the costs here are much lower. And, I mean, it was even higher going into 2022. But it's still more expensive in Europe. I wonder if it'll ever get low again, that European producers can be more competitive or not. Because the war in Ukraine ends, let's just say it ends very soon. You triggered about the Trump prediction, or just the basic idea that he could win? I don't know if you were on that other stream where, who was it? Was it that guy Penoid? Who was on somebody's stream? Was it Jeff's? And he said he lives in Pennsylvania, so I asked him if he thought Pennsylvania was going to go to Trump or Harris, and he said Trump without hesitation. And I think Pennsylvania is the most important state in this election to win. I don't think it's possible that somebody could win Pennsylvania and still lose the election. I mean, it's on paper it's possible, but I think in terms of like if you run every possible scenario that's actually going to happen, Pennsylvania always lines up with the winner. And so it should be interesting to see how that impacts things, because what's possible is that a Trump administration might focus more on making American goods sell better here through tariffs, and if it's a largely domestic producer who has to sometimes worry about ammonia imports from other countries, which they mentioned in their 10K before you got in here, they talked about that. I could see it being an issue or helpful for them. I'm not totally sure. It's possible that price of energy could go down under Trump if he gets some sort of law passed, or turns the dial on regulation to make it easier for oil and natural gas to get through. One thing I imagine. Whereas I don't imagine there would be as much financial support for fertilizer either way, like subsidies and stuff. I think there's a lot of pressure against that kind of spending lately. It must be tough being in Ireland, because you're sort of a small player compared to the US or the rest of Europe. And you kind of just get sucked in whatever direction everything else goes. Even if you're formally neutral on a lot of things, it's still like whatever the macro events are, how it affects things economically. Oh, that just reminded me. I need to pay my lawn guy. The reason it reminded me is because he has an Irish name. His last name is Duffy. So I need to go ahead and pay him now that I have the money moved to my account. Okay. So thanks for reminding me to pay person with your Irishness. WASF. Ireland is a subsidiary of America. I actually wonder if America might be a subsidiary of Ireland, with the amount of you that came over here and took things over. An Irishman is going to help Trump win. RFK Jr. I don't know if he'll succeed, but he's helping. And then, of course, JFK was president. So yeah, the Irish impact in the US is quite pronounced. All right, how do I pay this dude? Where's the text he sent me? I hope I didn't delete it. I hope I didn't delete it like a fool. Okay. I did not. Okay, great. Even better, okay. You have any questions about other companies? Because I'm kind of done looking at this. I think I would just need to write it now. But I'm not really in the mood for writing at the moment. My brain is not there. I don't exactly know how I want to express it. Okay, PayPal. By the way, you should, if there are any environmental friends you have, which is, I don't know what environmental friends are supposed to mean, but you interpret it as you think is actually makes sense. who have an interest in the business side of these things and have insights to share, as well as insights they would like to learn, then send them this way. But don't send them this way if they're going to be mad at my my somewhat detached approach to it all. I think you can probably tell that I don't necessarily think it's good to destroy the environment with business, but I also just know that it's happening anyway. If some people can't easily tell that difference, maybe they don't need to be here in the first place. We don't need needlessly difficult people on this channel, right? We don't need the we don't need spin-offs of all that other drama I've seen. I have seen quite a bit of it on different panels, and I still don't get really the drama. I still can't really keep track of it. Doesn't seem like it's fun. As bland as this might be in some senses, I do find it much more enjoyable than the drama. I'm amazed actually at how much people get addicted into all that. Because with this, you can focus your effort towards something productive. You can learn something. You can find a place to put your money, make it work for you, improve your livelihood. But I cannot do that getting angry at people. Unless I'm like a YouTube streamer with 10 million views, and somehow, I'm gonna be raking in thousands when I do that. But even then, it makes for an angrier society. A society in which going outside just becomes difficult, right? Do you want to be recognized in the streets for somebody who's starting things online all the time? You know what I mean? Anyway. Share your thoughts, WASF. Oh, Irishman. Environmental. I need to come up with a pain. The Envirishman. Close enough. We'll work on it. The Envirishman. I feel like I'm close to something. You need to work on your branding. That's what you need to do. Even if you're not going to stream, have branding that makes it look like you're about something, right? You pop up, people be like, "Oh, it's the guy who cares about the environment and lives on the Emerald Isle." I don't know if you're even still here, but hopefully those are all some things to think about. I don't know if I'm spitting out what are the best stocks for the environment. Did you just type that? You literally just typed that as I switched over to my browser. The best stocks for the environment? That is a tough thing to say. Because the point of stocks is that you're trying to make money. So if any board of governors and any management team they appoint, if they are doing their jobs properly, if they're going to focus on maximizing returns to shareholders, maybe with the qualifier of, don't do anything diabolically evil, right? So maybe, they'll have the good sense not to do that. Some companies don't. But, if it's maximize profits to shareholders, but, don't traffic human slaves to get the labor needs you have. I don't think they usually need to be told that. But in terms of nitpicking what's good or bad for the environment to get a job done, I don't think you can depend on them to do that. And a lot of environmental companies don't make money. Like Plug Power does not make money. And, in some ways, the ability to make money is often a measure of how financially sustainable a certain product is. Oh, good God. They are making this difficult to pay by card. Don't like PayPal. I think that was nice about my last long guys. He would let me pay through Cash App. Okay, the payment went through. I'll let him know. All right, cool. All right, I did not totally finish answering your questions. No, I don't want you to feel bad for this. If anything, I'm the depressing one. I'm the one telling you, oh, environmentalism doesn't make money. And that's not totally true. I mean, like, if we look at Tesla, they are an environmental company of a sort that has actually become profitable. They actually generate positive cash flow. So it's not just a reporting profit, where they can, maybe report that some things went up in value, even if it didn't make them money. But now they're actually generating cash. And they appear to be, a lot of that isn't just, just automobiles, but, developing a lot of the resources that will make a greener energy economy possible with, their strides in lithium batteries. So Tesla's the only one I can think of. But again, I would not buy Tesla because I think it's overpriced. I think it's been overpriced for a while. There's a big stock market crash. Maybe Tesla is one of those ones you just gobble up. But that's the tricky thing. I was going to Plug Power. Yeah, I mean, they do their hydrogen fuel cell electricity, but, they don't make money. They even have years where their revenues are negative. Like, how does that happen? And if you look at their cash flow, their net cash from operations is always, always, always negative. And that's before capital expenditures. Right? The only reason they're able to persist is because they're able to raise capital from somewhere else. They also sell a lot of their shares. So you notice they sold over 3 billion here. So why did they sell so much? Because Plug became one of those meme stocks during the GameStop short squeeze. So they sold a bunch of shares because they realized we may never get this kind of stock price again, and it's free money. This is probably the smartest thing they ever did in the history of the company, is just sell their shares at the peak of a meme bubble. Nuclear energy. Chinese companies, tricky thing with Chinese companies is that a lot of them are frauds over there. They just misreport things. They embezzle. They don't have the same kind of business culture that the United States has. And then it's hard to read a lot of financial reports from China because they're written in Chinese. If they don't produce an English version, what do you do? And then, of course, China may not respect the ownership interests of non-nationals. I mean, they may not even respect the ownership interest of nationals, but they're much more likely to do that to non-nationals. So I just have a lot of doubts about investing in China now. I once was open-minded to Alibaba, but even Alibaba proved to have some concerns with it. Not so much from how it's run, but just from the fact that it's in China and the People's Republic do things. Nuclear energy might be one of those places. I did look at a nuclear power company. This is a rising one. Recently. Holy shit! It shut up. So I described it was worth watching. It's doubled since I wrote about it, which is fascinating. But we've also seen it has been higher before. So we shall see how long this lasts. it does not have any revenue yet because it's still in development. That's the thing. But they are trying to build nuclear power plants in areas where data centers and servers will be developed, basically for the AI infrastructure. Because the big tech companies want to be able to since they have money to throw around, Microsoft, Google, Apple, they have money to throw around. They're like, well, we're just going to do green power. We're not even going to worry about the biggest possible cost or the lowest possible cost. We'll pay a little extra for green power, and then we can tell our shareholders, oh, we funded AI with green power. And then everyone says, yay, I love big corporations. Don't know very many. I think I told you before. I'm invested in the real estate of cannabis companies. So this is one that I own. And this is one that I don't own, but this one's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The other one is not. Let's take a look. How's this doing? This is doing awful. God, what a terrible return I'm getting for that one. I should have got another $20. I need to haggle more. Might be interesting to look at. See, green, publicly traded companies. Let's see, Brookfield Renewable, 8 best green stocks. Let's see what they say. It's Next Era. I think Berkshire Hathaway owns a lot of Next Era. If I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Okay, so looks like they're up quite a bit. They were down a lot more before. I don't know what drove them down here. They had a steady path of growth. COVID dips them a bit. They continue to grow, fall down further. PE of almost 25. $173 billion market cap. And they're making less than $6 billion a year. That's a hefty price. Even when it was about half, but that would have made it about 100 billion when it was, I'm gonna guess it was close to 100 billion here. Yeah, maybe 90. Even that's kind of high for this. So, and the thing is, like, buying the stock doesn't necessarily help the company unless they're raising capital. Have they been issuing common stock? Oh, they have been. Well, that should tell you something. Yeah, Next Era has been issuing stock, and they issued a lot in 2023. But what's interesting is their share price is a lot lower here too. That might be part of why it went down. When did most of these share sales happen? Well, so they had a good chunk of the year. They had three quarters of the year before it shot down. But yeah, I mean, they had to raise $4 billion in cash. For what? What did they do with it? Why did they even raise the money? Oh, look at all the debt they have. Let's see. even accumulating debt. I would need to look at the maturities on it, but it's not a assuring sign when they raise $4 billion and this is issued. This is the cash flow statement. It says they raised for $4.5 billion. Okay, let me look at the balance sheet. I'm on the wrong tab. Okay, yeah. Long-term debt did not decline. They have almost $70 billion in debt. That's a lot of debt. They might be one of the most indebted companies. Let's see, most indebted companies. We did have a question about private sector debt earlier. Seriously? What was the seriously about? Is that about what I said about yay big corporations? Oh, look, there's a Wikipedia article on it. Okay. Let's see, amount of debt. Oh, they're updating this list, I see. Okay, so that's not a great article. Let's go here. Oh, Substack. Okay. Interesting. So it looks like you'd have to be over 100 billion to be on this list, but they're not that far away from it, at 70 billion or so. And these are huge companies, right? A lot of these are banks. Banks don't really count, if you ask me, because banks just use their debt to finance other loans, and they probably have those loans collateralized, so most of that principal is secured or going to be used to repay the debt. That is not the case with companies like NextEra. They have to repay the principal purely with their cash generation, or they have to hope they can refinance it, and not go bankrupt. That would be fun. But Ecosia, do you ever look at the Bank of International Settlements data? International settlements data? You mean like civil litigation that gets settled, or like settlements with regulators or trade authorities for violations? I don't know what this is, so you tell me. So let's see. I can look at other. I don't trust green ETFs. Those aren't anything. There's no selection. Vornado Realty Trust. So that must be a real estate investment trust invested in green real estate. How long have they been around? They've been around for a while. Oh my goodness. Wow, they crashed. Not what you want to see with a REIT. They don't pay a dividend? They a REIT? They're actually a REIT? Why are they not paying dividends? they're reporting profits some years. What exactly are they doing with their cash flow? And they're still spending more on acquisition than they actually generate in cash. At least some years they are. What's their balance sheet like? About $8 billion in debt. Assets about $16 billion. All right, real estate after depreciation is about $10.7 billion. I need to look more closely. Why don't they pay a dividend? Maybe I can look them up. Yeah, no, IR. That's the bank that regulates central banks. Oh, so like the Fed, the ECB, the Swiss bank, like those ones. Are there any particular data points? Because I imagine when you talk about their data, it would be a lot of general macroeconomic data for the globe. Based in Basel. Okay. Where is Basel? Okay, it's in Switzerland. Yep, there it is. Oh, they got kicked out. Poor Russia. Po Russia. That's a lot of the world in there participating. Okay. Conspiracy theorists talked about this, of course. What's a conspiracy theory? They love talking about central banks. Yeah, there's remember one of the first streams I was doing, I think it was with Jeff. Folks were asking me about like central banks and interest rates. And then when they wanted to talk about that, you might have been here too. They wanted to ask me about Nancy Pelosi's trades. In fact, almost every time I appear on a panel or something, and people find out I'm about stocks, people will be like, yo, do you follow Nancy Pelosi's trades? And I'm like, Lord Jesus, not again. All right, let's take a look at their SEC filings. Let's see what kind of A fully integrated REIT conducts its business through substantially all of its interest in properties are held by the operating partnership, a Delaware limited partnership. Accordingly, Vornado's cash flow and ability to pay dividends to its shareholders are dependent on the cash flow of the operating partnership, the ability of its direct and indirect subsidiaries to first satisfy their obligations to creditors. Vornado is the sole general partner of and owned approximately 91% of the combined limited partnership interest as of 2023. Maybe that's part of it. I imagine the debt on the balance sheet is consolidated of those subsidiaries and probably a lot of that debt is bankruptcy remote. Maybe I can actually find that. Nope. Okay. Let me take a look here. Let's see. So there's a bunch of properties in New York. 57 Manhattan operating properties. It's office space. What is green about this? Why is this on that green stock list? This just seems like it's commercial real estate. In Manhattan, what is green? Are they like headquarters for green companies? Seems silly to me. Anyway, well, I think we learned what we need to learn. There's no way that's green. Different type of gray. Would you do a war effort and borrow loads of money to save the environment? A war effort? Like what war effort? You're talking about like eco-terrorism? Probably not pay it back. Like I said, am I stealing money then to save the environment if I'm not paying it back? So declare war on a country for the sake of an environmental outcome. Well, there's a good chance that the war would damage the environment. And not just because of the bombing and stuff, but the industrial capacity would be revved up, and probably with less regard to the environmental harm, since the immediate concern is surviving the war. So there's that. So yeah, it'd be difficult to accomplish, I think, with a war. Plus, I don't think a lot of people would be, like, if you were to do like something on the scale of a world war for the environment, you would need a lot of people in the world that want to be on your side. No, spend loads of money on solving climate change and biodiversity collapse. Oh, well, are you asking like, would I spend a lot of money on that if I were like in charge of the country? Like if I were the head of the US or the EU or something? I mean, if I had actual power to do things, that's a different question. I mean, yeah, if I had the resources, like the actual political resources to do that, I might. I don't think I immediately know where to start on some of that. About how I would reduce, say, carbon emissions without, accidentally triggering mass starvation or something like that. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. We could do infrastructure developments. That would probably improve. I think buildings could probably be better insulated. I think in the last few decades, insulation on homes became less of a priority because air conditioning became more common. But then that just increases energy costs. It's better insulation. Like if you look at really old houses, they were very insulated. Whereas like the Caribou Coffee I'm in right now, like there's these big windows that basically are the entire wall, and I don't imagine they insulate well. Like it's getting cold now. I imagine the heat they're using to warm the shop, a lot of that is just going right outside through the pane of glass. So I mean, it looks nice if you have a window and people can stare outside of it. I mean, it's a cozier place to hang out, but is that installation companies should be growing quickly? You say should be. Do you mean they are likely to be growing quickly? Or that if humanity had its act together, they should be growing quickly? Because those are two different statements. If people did what they should do, then think of how much of the panel drama you and I have both witnessed wouldn't have occurred, right? Like some of the stuff we've just seen in the last few days is a result of people not doing what they should do. That's why when I look at investing, I don't worry about the should of it anymore. You know, it's not that it isn't important, but it's just in terms of the expectations about what an investment's going to do, it's not going to matter. Yeah, I'm glad you agree. I will say it is interesting to me how much time is spent on that, because it's like as big as some of those communities seem to be, because it seems to me like it's a bunch of sub communities, many of which just have shared adversaries. They could just spend their streams doing things that they actually enjoy. Like they could just ban and block the people they don't like, and spend their time watching things or organizing events that they find to be fun. I think based on what I'm saying, I'm not totally a nihilist. Like there's opportunity to make things better, but I'm sort of aware of the fact that people don't I think I'm more an absurdist than a nihilist at this point. Let's see, long-term debt presented on our consolidated balance sheets. This is decent debt. Due 20. I did actually look at the maturity before. This is pretty good actually for their debt. They don't have a. This is going to be due pretty soon, but they are making this much cash. They could probably just pay it off. I think they should pay it off. I think they should. More companies should aspire to have no debt. They can just pay it off and then finance everything with their own cash. Even better. Wait for rates to go down, and if they want to take out like a 2% 30-year bond issue, then they can go crazy. That'd be a crazy bond issue. But yeah, like me, I would like to do more fun things. I'd really like to organize like I thought on Jeff's channel it was neat that we got to play a game of Monopoly. I am disappointed that Jeff had a bad experience with it. I personally thought it was a very interesting game. Oh man, my notifications are kind of lighting up here. Did you get to see the Monopoly game? I don't remember if you were there. I've actually done that a bit. I don't care for it that much. It's a bit too abstract. Oh, okay. Interesting. Let me look at that again sometime. Okay, yeah. It was an interesting game. In my opinion, Spike won, but that is disputed because of the way the mechanics work. Poker is actually not a bad game for risk management either. One thing I'm thinking of doing though is with Monopoly is having a contest. I discussed it with Jeff too. I don't know if I would do it on his channel though, where there'd be like a prize for the winner. And then probably what we would do is we would just source the prize from channel supporters who want to contribute and think it would be interesting to do that. I think if the winner, or if the players could be the winner and get a cash prize for it, they'd be much more motivated to play shrewdly than we saw in Jeff's game. Maybe think about, does this actually make sense? Poker's not bad either. Poker, it's actually interesting. Have you heard of Pine Creek Doug, a conservative atheist YouTuber? No, I have not heard of him. I guess I can take a look at him. Pine Creek Doug. There he is. Okay. An atheist thinks another atheist needs to use this. Okay. Which one is he? Is he the... I guess he is that guy? Oh, yeah, I should just click on him. Yeah, that's him. Okay. Does he go live? Sometimes. JD Vance was so good. Tim Walz is planning to vote for him. Okay, definitely a conservative channel. Same liberal caller calls into a conservative show and liberal show compare how he is treated. Okay. So is it? Let me see what. So is there something about his channel that makes him interesting? Other than the fact that he's a conservative atheist, which I don't think is that interesting. Not that I think there are very many conservative atheists, but going by the headlines, I can't think that it's content that I would find interesting, whether he's conservative atheist or not. What do you like about him, or what do you think is interesting about him? You tell me. I'll have something to write when I get back on this. I'm just not quite sure what yet. I might as well just go ahead and turn off the screen share for now. Whoa. Okay. I went off his show of his. Did you mean to say you went on his show a few times, live a few times, and talked about climate change? He disagrees. Oh, he thinks it's not happening. Well, that is the tricky thing, is that some of the estimates about how bad things would be by now have proved not to be correct, like in terms of like ocean levels or ice cap loss and things like that. They're not exactly as bad as was thought, which I suppose is a good thing. He said he's a finance guy. Really, if he's a finance guy, does he slip it into his commentary? Does he have like his full interviews? What are these? Oh, he does some long podcast episodes, but How can Banker be so right on religion and so wrong on politics? Systemic racism. Seems like he's talking about a lot. Did he happen to have a formal background in finance? Is that what this was? It doesn't seem like it's a finance themed channel. Did he like work at a bank before or something? He disagrees with trans issues and supports Trump. So why is he not doing the finance stuff? Wouldn't he rather be talking about money? I mean, you might remember when I first showed up on Jeff's panel about 3 weeks ago and I was like, stocks, money. Jeff was like, ooh, yeah, let's talk about that. This is way more interesting. Jeff forgot about drama very quickly. Maybe if I talked about it more, he wouldn't get caught up in some of the drama. Although it does seem to seek him out, even if he's not looking for it. Oh, I see. So he's doing YouTube as a side gig. He's a financial analyst as his main job. Okay. I still think that it would be better if he were to leverage his position as a financial analyst to make content related to it, unless there's some sort of clause in his employment contract, assuming he's working for a bigger employer, that prevents him from producing content about any of that stuff. Essentially, almost like an anti-competitive clause. That was one of the annoying things about working at Fidelity, is that that would have limited me. I always wanted to talk more about it publicly and not just do the modern portfolio theory questionnaire that they provide to their clients. Which, if you're a value investor, you would know why that would be kind of annoying. Yeah, I think he should do more content about the financial stuff. He might not get as many views. I guess that's the downside, is if you can have edgy takes on politics. It's interesting here, I want to go back to this. He disagrees with trans issues. What does that mean? Trans issue is the topic. If I said, I disagree with the economy. You see what I'm saying, right? What about the economy is the point of disagreement? If I said I disagree with, what would be another topic? So modern monetary theory isn't modern portfolio theory. They both have the word modern in theory, but they're completely different things. Not even slightly related. I'm not surprised that if he dislikes modern monetary theory, though. I don't think there are not very many people who follow MMT really anymore. I don't think there were ever that many people who believed it a lot. What's interesting is that it seems to be a pretty underbelieved thing, that the people who are against it feel like it's this commonly believed thing that they're trying to stop. I don't know. That's my impression of people who don't like it. The only people who really could talk about modern monetary theory are the people who don't like it. That's basically what I've noticed. I don't meet people who believe in modern monetary theory and are like, oh yeah, MMT. You can at least find Keynesian economists who believe in Keynesianism, but yeah, well, curious to know what this means. And if you don't know about the theory, I mean, modern monetary theory is basically saying that a central banking system can guide an economy efficiently, avoiding bubbles and crashes, and ultimately supporting long-term growth by controlling the money supply, which they do mainly through interest rates. And then they can also do other things like they can buy or sell government bonds. If they buy bonds, if they're buying them from people, they're receiving the bond, they're putting cash out into the system, the economy, to purchase this. If they start selling them, they are collecting money, so they're taking money out of the system. So buying like the Federal Reserve would buy or sell treasury bonds, that would control the money supply a bit. And then interest rates would determine how quickly businesses invest in themselves, because if interest rates are higher, the cost of capital is higher. If they set baseline interest rates higher, then whatever interest rate they would get on a loan is going to be higher now, for whatever their credit category may be. And the only way they could get a lower interest rate is if they got a better credit rating. But it can be harder to get a better credit rating if interest rates are lower and business is down, so you might see less business yourself. Easier to get a higher credit rating when it looks more like your business is going to grow. And so, the idea with the modern monetary theorists is that that would be the primary way to drive economic development and growth, and it doesn't get into the minutia of sectors and industries and things like that. Although the Fed does look at metrics like jobs report, inflation rates, and what's happening in the energy sector. They do look at all of that as a guide, but it would be like if Congress can pass a bill saying we're going to support green energy, we're going to give them all these subsidies, right? They can do something more pinpointed like that. Modern portfolio theory is basically a statistician's approach to portfolio management, usually involving a portfolio manager investing in a bunch of funds. These days would probably be ETFs that are very diversified into stocks and bonds, and doing a certain level of portfolio allocation based on their statistical assessments of those funds, and then whatever their clients' risk tolerance is, and then just adjusting the concentration between stocks and bonds accordingly. So that's what you mean by being against trans issues. Okay. So specifically, he's against things that trans activists are requesting, we'll say, for the most part, with maybe a few exceptions that are minor. Let me ask you this: does the Pine Creek guy a guy that you like or dislike? Somehow I get the feeling that you're bringing up because you don't like him very much. Maybe you don't hate him, but I'm sensing that maybe your opinion of him is net negative. Okay, you don't like him. You could have brought up somebody that you like, but it's interesting that you didn't. Are you trying to gauge whether or not I would like him if I were to watch him? I mean, just looking at his video titles, he doesn't seem like somebody I would like. This is how you argue against woke atheists. Even though this is addressed to Christians, I can ignore that. I don't really want to argue against people. I don't argue against woke progressives. Again, don't want to argue against people. Not interesting to me. Answer the freaking question, why can't politicians answer directly? And let's see what it's 5 minutes of evasion. My guess is that they're all focused on Kamala. And I don't know why Kamala feels like the normal way to say it. Okay. Seems to me like he's giving examples of Trump and Kamala. Not agree with some of his views. Which of his views do you find agreeable? Is the atheism one of those? That seems like the most likely one at the get-go. Okay, then once you answer that, I'll probably wrap up here. I've got a thing I want to get to pretty soon. Intel inventory does not lie. Hold. Interesting. Upgrade catalyst. Upgrade from sell to hold. Okay, whatever. Some of the trans-economic and immigration stuff. Interesting. When you say trans-economic, I assume like transitioning our economy. And then maybe some of his positions on immigration, that it's not necessarily desirable. I understand there's been some migrant issues in Ireland lately. Some towns had a lot of migrants kind of dumped on them lately and not integrating well. Which is interesting to me. Yeah, I've heard about like riots in Ireland over all that stuff in the past year. But it's interesting that people would expect Ireland to take on immigrants, because I don't think of Ireland as a particularly. I mean, it's an island. It's not like this big, abundant country. I don't imagine it something I could think of having a lot of space. Oh, trans-economic stuff? So it's like, is it some sort of relationship between transgenderism and the economy? Or are you doing like a voice to text in it, like, or autocorrect something? If it's a trans-economic is what you meant, I'm not sure how. I've never heard of anything where there was like something about transgenderism that has to do with the economy. Like there's a special focus on the economy related to it. I've only ever heard of it as a social issue. Be interesting. I'd be very interested to know if there's an economic aspect to this. Is it rich? Tran, Kamala, Kamala. That's how you say it. Kamala. Well, how do you feel about Ireland? As we're winding down here, how do you feel about Ireland being shared with the non-Irish, whether they're other Europeans or people from other continents entirely, just suddenly having an influx of immigrants that will likely change the demographic identity of the island permanently? Is there a problem with losing your Irishness here? Something that you have struggled to keep? Are you just like missing keys on your keyboard? But yeah, it's interesting to think about. So much of the Irish independence movement was to be able to keep their Irishness from the English. After centuries of struggling with that, going back to like Henry VIII and stuff, and then after you finally get that in a very short span of time, just taking on immigrants. Interesting for perspective. I'm not saying that means you have to. People of Ireland can change their mind if they're a democracy. They can do what they want. I assume they function like a healthy democracy, not like the U.S. But it is interesting to think that there was all this struggle for centuries, and then it just sort of goes that way. Kind of like how much of Europe did not want to integrate for a long time until the world wars just proved to be so terrible. They said, you know what, let's do this EU thing. Let's give that a try. And then people in France and Germany travel across each other's borders to do jobs like it's nothing, which would have been inconceivable in 1924. Can you imagine 1924 French and German workers just going back and forth and acting like it's normal? It's very interesting how much the world has changed. We'll probably have more problems with immigration. I'm 50-50 on it. Yeah, well, I think one of the issues is, with declining birth rates, there's going to be a labor shortage for a lot of European countries. Maybe Ireland isn't quite as bad on that because of the Catholic thing, but I think some of the more atheist countries probably have to worry about that a bit. But then there's the issue of a lot of the migrants come from very culturally conservative parts of the world, and sometimes people are surprised to learn they don't really believe in cosmopolitan egalitarianism that EU populations, current populations believe. And, you have like Islamist political movements in parts of Europe now sometimes, which is shocking, but it happens. So I'm not really sure how well that, even Polish people have a hard time integrating into the UK. So just even the fact that they might all be Europeans, just in different parts of Europe, is a tricky integration issue. And then, of course, there is something where, you can travel to a different part of the world and you can see a different culture. If you integrate, you kind of actually lose the diversity that is said to be so valuable because you've integrated. You kind of just become a blended soup of everything. You get to a point where, you go to Ireland, England, France, Germany, Poland, Russia, and it could all just be the same. Everyone looks the same, everyone speaks the same language, everyone has the same temperament. I'm thinking about a futuristic society in which everyone just sort of blends together. And then people watch movies about like Ireland, and they're like, wow, Ireland was so different. They start saying, instead of saying the Irish, they'll say the indigenous Irish. Think about that, right? When the Irish stop being the Irish and they're just this idea of the indigenous Irish, kind of like we would speak about climate change will probably cause more immigration. Well, if it floods Ireland, which being an island, I'd be worried about that. You guys might be the ones immigrating somewhere. You might have to send more of your kind over here to the U.S., finish what you started. So yeah, something to think about. Probably want to look at companies that benefit from more international travel in any event. Well, it's over 3 hours now, and I got a thing to go to, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop the stream. Thanks for chatting with me and throwing me questions. I would say, between streams, because I don't necessarily know when I'm gonna do these. It's this impromptu. Keep some thoughts about companies you'd like to see discussed or questions I could answer, and have them ready. That way, you're not like on the spot, I guess. But yeah, thanks for joining me. And I'll see you in the other spots of the Panelverse.